Hey everyone, happy Halloween! Hopefully you are having a wonderful and safe holiday. So I figured I'd hop on here and do a fun little history lesson for Halloween. So feel free to just follow along. There's no notes, there's not going to be a quiz over this. Let's just keep going. All right, so let's talk about some origins of some monsters and stuff, and Halloween in general. Well, wait a minute, my camera's not on. Oops. Oop, there we go. Okay, that's enough of that. All right, back to normal. So, what is Halloween? It's formerly known as All Hallows Eve or All Saints Eve. It was originally created as a celebration of the fall harvest and the transition from autumn to winter. Its origins are within an ancient Celtic tradition, but it was appropriated by Christianity and became Halloween. Celebrated the 31st day of October every year, which this year, 2021, Halloween is on a Sunday. So don't forget, you technically do have school in the morning. While it has become a day filled with tricks, treats, and colorful costumes, the monsters from the horror genre do have roots in historical myth. So, are monsters real? Who knows? Now, of course, we've got some classic monsters, witches and vampires. So we'll start with the witches. Now, witchcraft is the practice of magical skills and abilities. It is a broad term that varies culturally and societally, and this can be difficult to define with precision. Assumptions about witchcraft should be applied with caution as to not make overgeneralized assumptions. Witches are most commonly associated with those who use metaphysical means to cause harm to the innocent. In a modern sense, they are more commonly referred to as benign, positive, or neutral practices of modern-day paganism. The idea of witchcraft and witches is most often present in societies and groups whose cultural framework includes a magical world view. So, as we keep going, we're going to talk about some vampires. A vampire is a creature from folklore that subsists on feeding on the vital essence, generally in the form of blood of the living. They are undead creatures that often visit loved ones and cause mischief or death in neighborhoods. And they inhabited when they were alive. It was first popularized in Western Europe around the 18th century. There was a mass hysteria of pre-existing folk belief in the Balkans and Eastern Europe that resulted in corpses being staked and people being accused of vampirism. In modern times, the vampire is generally held to be a fictitious entity, although belief in similar vampiric creatures such as the chupacabra still persists in some cultures. Early folk belief in vampires has sometimes been ascribed to the ignorance of the body's process of decomposition after death, and how people in pre-industrial societies tried to rationalize this, creating the figure of the vampire to explain the mysteries of death. Zombies. They're a fictional undead being created through the reanimation of a corpse. Now, they're most commonly found in horror and fantasy genre works. The term comes from Haitian folklore, in which zombie is a dead body reanimated through various means, most commonly magic. Modern depictions don't necessarily involve magic. Things like The Walking Dead use a disease, but others invoke science fiction methods such as carriers, radiation, diseases, all that jazz. Kimbundu to Portuguese Dictionary from 1903 actually defines the related word mzumbi as soul, while a later Kimbundu Portuguese dictionary defined it as being a spirit that is supposed to wander the earth to torment the living. And I believe these are the last set of monsters we're going to talk about, and that being werewolves. This is a human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf, either purposefully or placed under a curse or affliction, typically caused by a bite or scratch from another werewolf. They're most commonly found on the same night as a full moon, and early sources for the belief in this ability or affliction call it lycanthropy. The myth of the werewolf is most common and widespread in European folklore. The belief specifically started in parallels to the belief in witches during the late Middle Ages and early modern period. There were werewolf trials that emerged in modern-day Switzerland in the early 15th century, but would subside by the 18th century. So just like here in the United States, where we had like the Salem witch trials, in Europe they had werewolf trials. So are they real? What do you think? Don't look behind you. So that's enough about the historical monsters. Let's talk about movies. Movies are fun, right? Take a minute. How many of these movies up here do you recognize? Because I could tell you all of them. We got Friday the 13th, Carrie, Scream, Texas Chainsaw, Evil Dead, Coraline, Alien, the General Chucky franchise, Hocus Pocus, and Nightmare on Elm Street. So, when we talk about horror cinema, we can't not talk about Alfred Hitchcock. Considered to be one of the most influential filmmakers in cinema history, he revolutionized the horror genre and brought about the silver age of horror cinema. He's known for numerous horror movies, including things like Psycho, The Birds, Rear Window. As you can see, it looks like I do have a video clip for The Birds, but I'm not going to play that during this recording, but I will link it in the description down below. Now, something interesting on The Birds. It was one of the first movies in Hollywood history to utilize a green screen. Hitchcock also capitalized on the common fears of the people, and as a result allowed for a look inside the human mind and what scares us. Hence the birds. Some people are scared of birds. He's done movies about people that are afraid of flying. All those sorts of things. George A. Romero, the master of zombies. He revitalized the idea of zombies in modern culture and created a multi-film franchise on zombies and is still making movies today. Some of the more famous ones include Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and Land of the Dead. It essentially spawned an entire branch of horror movies that utilized zombies and brought them back into pop culture. Think about pop culture today. When we talk about zombies, the biggest thing that would probably come to your mind is The Walking Dead. We wouldn't have had The Walking Dead without George Romero. Now, by far the author of the horror genre, Stephen King, he has written at least 20 plus books about monsters, ghosts, and demons that plague humanity. A majority of his books take place in Maine, where he grew up. On a positive note, his writing became an outlet for himself while recovering from various addictions to alcohol and drugs. Some of his most famous works have been turned into horror movies, and this is just a short list. There's still a few more that I don't have on this list. Things like It, The Shining, Pet Sematary, Salem's Lot, Carrie, Cujo, not on this list that have been made as horror movies. Christine, Pet Sematary 2, Doctor Sleep. Trying to think what else there is. Misery would also count as a horror movie as well. Slashers. This is the most common type of horror film in the last 50 years. It is here we see the beginning of multiple major franchises in the horror genre. Things like Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Halloween franchise. These films were characterized by lots of blood, gore, and stereotypes. These stereotypes usually included a nerd, a pure sort of character, the final girl or boy, a joker, and a jock/popular person, usually were the tropes you would see in a horror movie. So while I don't have any clips from Slasher to show you, mainly just because they're not exactly appropriate to show at school, they're quite numerous and make up a major chunk of the horror genre, especially from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Now, once we hit the 90s, the slasher genre and the horror genre were kind of starting to die again, mainly because everything had been done. It's here we see the rise of movies like Scream and Scary Movie, which provide a modern commentary on the slasher films. They get meta. While these are technically horror movies in their own rights, they border upon comedy and breaking the fourth wall more than they do being a horror movie. Films like Scream decided to poke fun at more well-known horror movies and provide a revitalization of the horror genre. It is said that when Scream came out in the early 90s, it essentially was a rebirth of the genre as a whole. Now, again, scary movies may not be your thing. So let's hop over some kids' movies. Starting with Tim Burton, that become readily accessible for kids. Films like Nightmare Before Christmas and Paranorman provide a scare just for younger audiences. We also start to see the use of stop-motion animation in these films and the utilization of clay models. And of course, our final, it's Halloween. Of course we have to talk Disney. Even though their movies don't really classify as horror, they are still an integral part of Halloween. Famous films include things like the Halloween Town franchise, Hocus Pocus, Twitches, and all the numerous Disney Channel show Halloween specials. Those all can fall into this boat of Halloween. So brings the end of our Halloween lesson on this All Hallows Eve. May thee remain safe, may you have fun, and watch out, because things may go bump in the night. Happy Halloween, everybody. Stay safe. I'll see you all next time, okay? Bye, everyone.